Hello, hockey fans, and welcome to another edition of Coach's Corner of Michigan, an educational podcast dedicated to the promotion of high school hockey by interviewing coaches and players from various regions across the state. I'm your host, Andy Weidenbach. These podcasts will serve as a resource of information for current coaches and players, as well as for prospective student athletes considering playing high school hockey in the future. Today's podcast is brought to you by Stream Cortex for all your hockey needs. Our guests today are John U. Bacon, former head coach of Ann Arbor Huron, along with three of his former players, Mike Henry, Chris Fragner, and Scott McConnell. Some of the topics we will be discussing on this show are lessons on leadership and why culture matters. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. Thanks for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us today. Coach, we'll start with you. We'll go back to 1998. You're covering the Nagano Olympics. And you're doing some freelance work for Formula One and many other things. And you decide to coach this hockey team that's 0-23. Can you tell us why and what prompted that, and tell us a little bit about your journey?
Sure. Yeah, in '98, I was still with the Detroit News, covering the Olympics for the Nagano Olympics for the Detroit News as a feature writer. Left in '99 and then started freelancing for Time Magazine and Sports Illustrated and ESPN and so on. Covered the Formula One race in Melbourne, Australia for the New York Times, and got a chance to interview George Harrison, for example, while I was down there. So life was pretty good for a freelancer, but freelancing requires time and energy, of course, and being single helps because it's about deadlines and travel. But then this job I'd always wanted opened up in 2000. The team was 0-22-3. And you hockey fans know that 0 is where the wins go, of course. So not an ideal situation. And even worse, Andy, the guy they picked, yours truly, happens to be the worst player in school history. And this is not false modesty. I can prove this empirically. I still hold the record for the most games in a Huron uniform, 86. I dressed in all of them for 3 years. With the fewest goals, 0. And that record simply cannot be beat. So 0 is hard to beat. All these guys broke it, of course. So on the positive side. So you got a team with 0 wins, a team with coach with 0 goals. This is an ideal combination. I don't think that when I was hired, I was that popular a selection either. So we got that problem going in. But why did I want to do it? I had a good experience as a high school hockey player, playing at Huron from 79 to 82. We got to the Final Four my senior year. We had some talented players in that team. Tom Nallen played at Michigan State. Brad McCaughey played at Michigan. I did not, of course. But I wanted them to have a better experience than I had. I wanted them to learn what I learned at Culver Academies, at one of your great rivals, Al Clark. Guys like that, Red Berenson, Herb Brooks, were all mentors of mine at this point, through articles and whatnot. So I wanted them to have an experience that they look back on fondly, that helped them grow as individuals and win a few games along the way. And my theory was, and I wanted to see if it's true, that even though I never scored a goal, seeing these guys score goals would make me a lot happier than any goals I could have scored. So that was the theory I wanted to test.
That's awesome. Well, it's a remarkable turnaround. So you're turning this team around. You're a brand new coach. You're taking a team over that's 0-22 or 0-23. Can you tell us what were some of the great memories you had over that period of time?
Well, again, your rival Al Clark at Culver, and by the way, we had some guiding lights. Trenton was one of them. Throughout the book, of course, the book is Let Them Lead. Unexpected lessons in leadership from America's worst high school hockey team. We had a podcast that goes with it. Trenton was a guiding light. Cranbrook certainly was. The program you ran was everything we wanted to be. Successful on and off the ice, a class program, win or lose, and you won a lot. That's what we wanted. So I asked for help from Al Clark. Al Clark's great advice was the first thing you got to do is to make it special to play for Huron. I cracked that. Yeah, we're already the worst team in America. That's pretty special. And he said, no. The easiest way to make it special is to make it hard. And that's the exact opposite that everyone was telling me. This generation is soft, they're entitled, they're lazy, and so on. So, and he's right. Navy SEALs have got a wait list. They take 6% and they pay $54,000. So it's not the money. They sell the hard. That was the idea. And Al told me, if you let them know that you got to do things that most folks would not do to make your team, that after a little while, a little encouragement, they themselves will reinforce the culture. And one of my favorite memories at Huron was Mike Henry right there in the middle square on the podcast here. We're on the track. It's late August. It rains in the morning, and it's hotter than hell in the afternoon, a classic Michigan day. It's so hot that steam is coming off the track. And I say, gentlemen, look down there at the goalposts. Can you see the goalposts? And the guys say, no, we can't, because the air is so wavy, you can't make it out. And I say, hey, we're not going to whine about it or cry about it. We're going to brag about this and set every record we've got on this track. And everyone's on board, and they're rah-rah and so on, except for one new guy, freshman, I believe. He mumbles something. And Mike Henry, the captain, says with just the right amount of irony, hey, you play for Huron, and it's harder over here. And right then I knew that we're taking off, because it wasn't me saying that. It was the captain saying that, which carries a whole lot more weight than a coach, as you know, Andy. So the culture changed. We won 7 games that first year. End of our second year, we're 16-8-2. We got to play Trenton at Trenton for a regional final. That's a team that beat us, Andy, 13-2 my first month on the job. And that's not football, folks. That's hockey. So that's 13 individual scores. Brutal, but that's where we were. Year and a half later, we play them at their place, packed house, and we lose 3-2. We outshot them, we think, 30-27, even game. Their fans gave my players a standing ovation at the end of the game. And at that point, the rest was just basically fun. At that point, we turned it around. And that loss, Andy, was one of my favorite memories, amazingly.
Yeah, well, that happens. I know when I started at Cranbrook, similar situation, we had 17 guys at our first tryout.
That's not a tryout, Andy. That's a show up.
Yeah, it's a show up. Everybody made the team, obviously, and we only won 8 games our first year. People don't know that.
I did not know that.
Second year we won 12 games, and then after year 3, like your team did, things start to take off, right? Things are changing fast, and then we won 16 or 18 games. I think we won a state championship, 3 years later. But similar to your situation, you got to get the guys to buy in. You got to change the culture. And, to do that, I think, is an incredible feat. So there's going to be some coaches out there listening to this podcast. And, that's our audience, right? Our target audience is high school coaches and players, or potential high school coaches and players. So, what would your advice be to a high school coach? They're looking to improve their program. You give them one piece of advice, one thing you can tell them that will turn their program around. What would it be?
Simple. Be patient with results, as you were, from 7 wins to 12 and on up, of course. Same with us, basically. Be patient with performance results. Be very impatient with behaviors. Behaviors got to be right on day one. We got to stretch and count properly. We've got to show up on time, dressed, ready to go. And we only had 2 philosophies, 2 values. And these guys can still say them, I'm sure. What are they, guys? You already know. 2 things. What are they? First rule.
Work hard. Support your teammates.
Number 2, support your teammates. Back then, it's a lot more enthusiastic, Andy, but well done.
These guys are a lot older now.
They're a lot older. They're older than I was when I coached them. So how about that? But,
they're running out of gas.
Exactly. But we kept it simple. We kept focused on the things that we control and don't get wrapped up in the things you don't. Pucks bounce, referees do funny things, so do goalies. If you get wrapped up in that, you're going to get lost. Just focus on what you put out in the world. Back to favorite memories, by the way. Scotty McConnell's first goal we'll talk about later on. And Chris Fragner, of course, our star player, Mr. Hockey runner-up, his last comment to the team after our heartbreaking loss in overtime. We'll get to those as well.
Yeah. No, we're looking forward to talking to the guys here in a few minutes. But, you've written 12 books, 5 of them on the New York bestseller list. I read Bo's Lasting Lessons. I absolutely love that book. Loved it. I personally think anybody that's coaching should read that book, because there's a lot you can get out of that book. He didn't compromise the integrity of his program. Nobody was bigger than the team. I can't tell you word for word every page, but I can tell you what I got out of the book as a coach, and I absolutely love the book. Now you have a new book out. You mentioned it earlier, Let Them Lead. Unexpected Lessons. I love this title too. Unexpected Lessons in Leadership from America's Worst High School Team. That's a catchy title. But anyway, can you tell us, what are we going to get? I think those kind of books are great for coaches. There's a lot of information in there, but what can you tell us about the book?
We keep it simple. We keep it direct. It's kind of two books in one. And on the one hand, it's a business leadership book, and we've been written up in Fast Company, and Malcolm Gladwell picked us for his book club, and NPR picked it as one of their favorite books of the year. These are not sports people as a rule. But it's also got the second story is the story of our climb up there and how the players did it. And the cool part is how the players took over. The better we got, the less I did. And the less I did, the better we got. And that might not be unrelated, Andy. So the more these guys took over, the better things went. And these three guys in the photo here are three of the most important ones.
I see that you have all kinds of awards here for journalism, for broadcasting, your Teacher of the Year award, Speaker of the Year. I mean, just an unbelievable number of awards. I mean, how'd you find the time to coach the team? I mean, how do you work this into your busy schedule?
I was single. That's the answer.
Yeah, well, that helps for sure.
It did help. I can't imagine being married doing that. If you're a teacher, it's still very hard, but the schedule's set up to accommodate this. If you're a freelance writer, I mean, I cut off John Wooden in the middle of an interview, the famous UCLA basketball coach, because I had to get to practice. And if they can't be late, I can't be late. And at that point, you realize it's getting harder to do it from a freelance writer point of view. But there's no substitute. I don't believe in quality time. There's time. And wherever you spend that time is what you care about, and everybody knows it. So if you have time for them after practice, and you need to have time for them after practice, they pick up on that pretty quickly. So it was time-consuming, but I've never had a job that was harder that I loved more. It was energizing. I looked forward to coming to the rink each day. And you know what it's like, man. You're around 17-year-old kids, 16-year-old kids. We didn't even call them kids. We call them players and men and so on. The energy level is just higher. And even if you're tired after an away game at Trenton on a Wednesday night, somebody in that locker room is going to be jacked up to get going, and you rely on their energy to get you through. So just being around these guys was a ton of fun. And the assistant coaches felt the same way. Like you, Andy, I was blessed with fantastic assistant coaches. These guys had MBAs. They worked at Ford. They had their own architectural firm. Serious jobs. They kept coming down at first as a favor to me. They kept coming down because the players draw you in, and their stories and their lives are so compelling that you want to be part of it, basically.
Yeah, well, it's a great story. I'm hoping that after this podcast, some of the coaches will read the book and maybe get
me too, Andy.
Maybe get something out of it to help their teams. So the team was 0-23 when you took over. I mean, how do you sell that to the guys? I mean, that first couple of weeks had to be really tough.
Yes. And Mike and Scott were there for that, so they can speak to it. Undeniably, it was tough. The first letter I sent to them, having never met them, was that congratulations, you are trying out for the hardest working high school hockey team in the state of Michigan. Now, obviously, I was not checking out your program or trends and so on. I'm sure you guys did a lot of work in the offseason, but I didn't check up on that. But as Scotty McConnell below said that nobody could have worked harder than we did. So it's tough at first, and you need to get buy-in, but we never lowered the bar. And we said right away, crazily, that our goal is nothing less than a state title. And I said, it's not going to happen this year, but when it does happen faster than you think, that team will invite you guys back and give you guys a standing ovation. And really, at the end of our second year, we were facing off with Trenton even up. So we never won a state title, but we were, I think, in range at the end of our second year and our third. But the amazing thing is, what made it so great is not one player quit. And we're not talking about Navy SEALs here. We're talking about, quote unquote, the worst high school hockey team in America. Plus of every bad habit out there, not one quit. And they're voluntary workouts. You know, that's the state law. I can't come down. And they all could have done something else. And it was brutally hard. And they kept coming down. They even started telling their friends on the lacrosse team or the basketball team or the football team. Those guys came down a few times and got smoked by these guys. But that's when you knew you're turning the corner. When these guys started bragging about it to their friends, that's when you knew the culture had changed. Yeah, that's awesome. So the last sentence in your bio, the information I received, I thought this was pretty good. It says Bacon is now an average hockey player, a mediocre Spanish speaker, and a poor piano player, but this has not stopped him from enjoying all three. I thought that was pretty good. So those are your hobbies, obviously. That probably keeps your sanity. Playing a little recreational hockey and staying close to the game. Are you doing any coaching, any working with any teams, doing anything else these days? I'm working with the Tim Horton Timbits at the Ann Arbor Ice Cube because my kid is one of them. He's 6.
Oh, nice.
Mike's kids are older, so are Chris's. Chris's kids skate at the same rink. These guys give me parenting and coaching advice, and Andy, I have to take it. They know more than I do, so I'm doing that. But once I got out of coaching in 2004, and the reason was time and money. I couldn't keep it up in terms of the demands on that. But I started teaching at Michigan 2 years later, which also pays about the same, high 4 figures basically for the semester. So another brilliant career move on my part. But I couldn't do both. So that's what I've been doing for 15 years since then. But the cool part is these guys, we're still very much in touch. A lot of them come back every year for our barbecue in my backyard. That's been a lot of fun as I watch their families grow. That's been 17 years, and I still go to their weddings, and they come to my barbecue. So that, as you know, you can't put a price on that. No, that's for sure. That's the big reward for us as coaches, because it's not a monetary thing. It's definitely the players and the long relationships that you keep. So we're going to talk to Mike here, Mike Henry, a little bit. And Mike was your first captain, and Mike played on that team that was 0-23, and then he was your first captain. Can you tell us a little bit about Mike? What kind of captain he was? Mike was the key. It's very simple. The other guys here, Scotty McConnell was a great leader. Chris Fragner was assistant captain, then a captain, another great leader. But Mike was the key because if Mike had the pull not only of the team but of the entire school. One of the most popular guys in the school. And if Mike and I were going in the same direction, I knew the rest of the team was going to follow. And if we weren't going in the same direction, he was going to win that battle, not me, because they liked him. That was the fundamental difference there. So Mike was unusually charismatic, a great leader. When we had a come to Jesus meeting about a month into our first summer, it was all about the simple fact that Mike did not recognize the power that he had. He said, look, they're following you, not me. And if you need to take this seriously, you need to care. I know it's not cool to care, and it's funny to joke during the stretching and whatnot, but they watch you and they follow you. And if you're going in the right direction, this thing's going to change. And if you're not coming with me, then we're in trouble. And Mike got the message loud and clear. He was not a good leader, not a great leader. He was a phenomenal leader. And you'll see in the book the amount of trust Mike and I had between us from the season on, pretty much, including that knockdown, drag-out, bench clearing brawl with Chelsea in the Fall League, and I was out in Providence, Rhode Island, doing a story on the women's team out there. So I hear about this bench clearing brawl, and the other team, I can say in fairness, and they say it in the book, they did start it. Mike got in the middle of it, and 3 guys were pounding Mike, and then everyone else starts helping him out. But everyone in the locker room was freaking out, afraid that I was going to start throwing guys off the team. And Mike said, chill, I know, coach, we're good. And once he hears what happens, we're going to be okay. And that's how much trust Mike and I had already developed by October. So Mike was the key. Yeah, that's real helpful when your captain buys in right away and has that much clout and influence with the players. And without that, you're screwed. Yeah, without that, you're in trouble. Big trouble. So Mike's the captain the first year. So what did you take away from playing for Coach Mike? What was your how did you lead the team? Like the coach said, you're the most influential guy. Can you tell us a little bit about how this all started for you?
Yeah. Surreal, almost is the word, right? Because we're coming off a season where we have 10 seniors and we didn't all run in the same social groups as the 10 guys that played hockey together. But when we were at the rink, we were all so close to each other. Then we come off and, you think this bond between the 10 of us and, even Scotty, the year younger than us, Chris, a couple years younger, but you think that bond wouldn't be strong after losing 20 games in a row. How can these guys even look at each other anymore and get along? But for some reason, we were all good friends, and we've always had that friendship and that group together of us. Then we kind of had, no one's fault. We just came off a rough year, right? Then we didn't necessarily have any direction. Then next thing you know, we got this guy yelling at us. We're like, what is going on? We just lost 20 hockey games. This guy's screaming at us. He wants to get in the weight room in July, and we're like, why are we getting in the weight room? We lost 20 games. What's it matter? We'll just go out there and lose 20 again, right? What? And we're all friends and we're getting along. But what we didn't realize was the potential we had as a group of friends. So we're all doing it together, but we're losing, and we don't know why we're losing, and we don't understand it. And all of a sudden someone comes in and beats us down, but he's not really beating us down. He's gearing us up. And we didn't realize that at first. And so then the first 2 months, right, we're in the weight room in August. Season doesn't start till November. And Scotty, hopefully, and Chris was around. And I mean, I'll make fun of John here. I know we're going to wait to the end for this, but I mean, if Chris plays for us, we win 12 games and not 7 the first year, but he had to do his thing his sophomore year. Sorry, Chris.
No, we'll give you a chance to rebut, Chris. Don't worry about it.
But Chris is working. We're all working out together. It's the off season, and all of a sudden, this, like I said, we got a new voice in there, a new culture change, and not everyone bought into it first. And some of the guys are coming to me like, "What do we do? Like, we don't want to play for this. This isn't worth it. We're never going to succeed." And I think even in the book, and I know, but Coach Bacon and I's relationship was a little rocky at first. We had a few conversations, a few this, and it's, do you buy? Like, I started buying into him, but I'm like, is he buying into me? Then it just all, he kept pushing, and without him keep pushing us, maybe we would have broke. But he kept pushing, and it actually, I believe it kept us together because he kept pushing and changed that culture. Then we started buying into the culture a little bit, not a little bit. We bought in. Come early September, we bought in, and I don't know if this is his plan or not. Maybe it all just happened, but then he started buying into us a little bit more and seeing what we came through and started treating us. He still was that guy, right? The disciplinary and you got to get XYZ done and set these simple goals. What were the goals, Coach? I forgot them already.
Work hard and support your teammates.
So he kept it simple for us.
He's kidding.
I can't even remember 2 things, and he kept them simple for us. And we just kept going back to that. And every time we started breaking down, he would come back and say, "This is simple. You guys can do this. All you have to do is these 2 things." And we just kept replying back to those 2 things: simple, culture change, work hard, support your teammates. We did that, and really then we started believing in each other, and the whole culture changed. And I mean, I'm unfortunate there because he writes this book and this whole thing happened, and 4 years later, and I was there for 6 months of it.
Yeah.
Mike was also the assistant coach that summer. The next summer, we won the summer league in Plymouth. Mike was a very big influence. If I may interject 2 things I forgot to mention, by the way. The year before, as Mike said, they got along very well. For all the problems that we had from a winless season, Brian Skyless, the captain of that team, J.O. Delancey, Steve Black, good guys. They were surprisingly unified. That's one problem we didn't have. The guys liked each other. They're different cliques, like you said, but not destructive on that team. And, of course, Michael Appridge, our assistant coach, he was the good cop. I was the bad cop. When they had a lot of doubts about me, they went to Mike, and Mike was the guy they trusted. And Mike kept us together, I think. So sorry about that, Mike, but I know you'd agree with those 2 things.
No worries. It's just amazing, the culture change and the shift to set everything up in 8 months. Like how quick it goes. And I mean, right? High school hockey, which I love and support, it's just so quick. November to March, right? And how much these teams can do in such a small amount of time is really amazing. And we set something up, and it was Coach Bacon, John. Now it's John because it's 20 years later, but
now it's Bakes actually. But go ahead.
Well, in the first 2 months, it was a different word, but I won't use that.
It was an adjective before Coach.
But just to set it up was an incredible come in, and the words he uses in the book and the things he uses to change a culture and drive us and motivate us was amazing to be around. And everyone, he gives me all the credit, but there was no, it was easy for me. You either do it or you don't. I'm going to go do it and come with me, or don't do it. And if you don't want to do it, the rest of us are going to go do it. And luckily enough, I was right there. Everyone kind of came with me.
So high school hockey was a good fit for you, Mike, obviously. I mean, you have a pretty stressful job now. You're the, general manager at the USA Hockey Arena. You manage the CJ Brew Pub. You're the director of the CompuWare youth teams. You got 18 teams you deal with. I mean, it's basically crisis management every day. I mean, there's always something breaking down, people, something always happening. So, you played for Coach Bacon. He had these high standards. He taught you all these life skills. I mean, how did it help you in your professional career?
Well, I kind of poked fun at him earlier, but to me in my professional career, and I've taken this with me, you got to break it down to basics. Like, work hard, have fun, support your teammates, do the easy things. Then you work as the hard things as they come. And really, anything's that easy to me. And I take that to me personally. But you take care of the basics, you do the easy things, and the hard things come naturally after that. And that's really what I take away from the high school culture. It was, we were in it together, we did it. And I'm going to overstep Cranbrook and Brother Rice and Catholic Central, and the Catholic Central plays it out of rink now, but nothing like an Ann Arbor Huron Pioneer hockey game at the Ann Arbor Ice Cube and coming out and seeing all those fans. But all we knew is if we took care of the basics, the four things we laid out or our simple goals, it carried me through my career, and it helps me now. And we got whatever going on at the rink, or a parent who's mad, let's get to the basics, and are we doing the things the right way and the simple things the right way, then the rest of it usually takes care of itself.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned, the two things that Coach always used to say. So you guys will love this. So in my meetings with my players, I always used to say, that the Navy has standards, right? The U.S. Navy has standards, but Navy SEALs have higher standards. And I would tell this to my players like almost every day, 3 times a day. We don't want to be regular Navy. We want to be Navy SEALs. We want to aspire to a higher standard. So one of my guys at the banquet, now you got to remember, this guy's on the team for 4 years. He's probably heard this 10,000 times. We don't want to be regular Navy. We want to be regulars. We want to be Navy SEALs, right? We don't want to be regular Navy. And so he gets up at the banquet. He says, the one thing I learned from Coach is we don't want to be regular SEALs. We want to be Navy SEALs. I'm like, what the heck is that about? What do you mean regular SEALs? There's no such thing as a regular SEAL. Like 4 years, 10,000 times he heard it. So, we always laugh about it. It's just that sometimes, those things, they resonate, but, to recall it, right? Like, this guy was just, he was one of those guys. It was just hilarious to hear him talk. But anyway, it was all good and good fun. We teased him about it. It was awesome. But I know that, based on the bios that I read here, that all of you guys were majorly influenced by, the 2 or 3 or 4 years that you spent with Coach, because every one of you mentioned it in your bio. So we're going to segue over here to Scott McConnell for a few minutes. Mike, thanks for your time. We really appreciate it. I want you to think about something, here at the end, so we can pull up some dirt on the coach, even if we got to make it up.
I thought you were going to ask me a hard question.
No hard questions, all in good fun. Anyway, Scott, so I see that, you work for cybersecurity, for the U.S. Homeland Security. I mean, that's got to be a stressful job. And I see that you played on the team for Coach Bacon. And first year you were with the team on the taxi squad, didn't get to play a lot, I'm assuming. But the last couple of years, you're on the team. You're watching this big turnaround. How did this team influence you in your professional career?
Sure. So, like Mike was saying, I was on the taxi squad the year before when Mike was talking about our 22-3 season and how we somehow all managed to become friends despite, the rest of the hockey league trying to, fight against that. But we, it was really a culture change, like Mike was saying, in terms of Bacon came in right away and just set incredibly high expectations. And, but he also set expectations that he, for some reason, believed we could reach, right? So, I think that one of the things that has always stuck with me is if you set your sights high and set them a little bit higher than you think you can achieve, you will reach those, and you'll reach those if you work hard, if you support your teammates, if you do all of those things that he taught us. I can remember the first couple of weeks of workouts when someone said, "Hey, like, why are we doing this? We didn't do this last year. Why are we out on the track? Why are we in the weight room?" And Bacon didn't miss a beat. He just said, "You guys sucked last year." And so, and then he got a lot more serious. He said, "Look, if you guys want different results, you're going to have to do things differently. You're going to have to expect more out of yourselves. You're going to have to set high goals, and you're going to have to work hard and support each other if you want to achieve those." So that was, as far as lessons learned, I think that's something that has carried me throughout my entire adult life, throughout my career, is that when you're in a situation where, you're not, where there's a lot going on, it's a stressful situation, just, remember those kind of simple things that you grew up on, as far as working hard, setting your goals. And then the other thing that that Bacon taught us that he didn't really talk about, as much in the book or as much here, but that I think he sells himself a bit short on, is whatever you're doing is you do it with integrity. I think that one of the, he had, when he came in, he wanted to win. He wanted us to be the best hockey players we could be, but he had zero tolerance for anyone cutting any corners. He expected you to, to be in class during the day. He expected you to be on time to practice. When 4 o'clock meant 4 o'clock is what he always used to say. And, he was never going to sacrifice his integrity or allow us to sacrifice ours in order to win or in order to get ahead. So I think that's kind of the third lesson that's really stuck with me from playing for Huron hockey and playing for Bacon.
Yeah, and those are things that stay with you forever and ever, right? Like I told you guys earlier in the segment that I read that book, Bo's Lasting Lessons. I mean, that's definitely in that book, right? There's no compromise of the integrity. Nobody's bigger than the team. Pay attention to details, all that good stuff that you learn. And so it was my understanding that you scored a goal in your last game of the season. Is that correct?
That's what the book says.
Dickie Dunn wrote it. It's got to be true, right?
The book is accurate.
Yes. Yeah. So that was, I know it was. I guess he wanted to protect his record of.
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah. Wanted to protect his record of 0 goals in 82 games, and so.
86.
Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to sell you short there. But one of the things that he did, I think I may not have started until the second year, but each player who scored their first goal, would get the puck. They'd write the date, the score, everything on that, and it was, a big deal in the locker room, a big deal on the bus ride home. And for each player, it sort of happened at some point throughout the season. I was never the player that, Mike Henry or Chris Fragner were. I was always a fourth line guy, always kind of fighting for ice time. And so it wasn't a shock to me that I was one of the, later ones to get that goal. And to be honest, at first, I didn't care that much about scoring a goal really at all. And so until Bacon had this idea that as we got late into the third period of a blowout game, he'd put me on the ice with Chris. He'd put me on the ice with, Pete Haringa, who was another one of our star players. And their job was just to feed me the puck. And my job was to just hit every post that I could, apparently. And so, throughout the season, the team got more and more behind it. And I was, at first kind of uncomfortable with it because I felt like, okay, I'd rather, let's focus on the team improving. Let's focus on wins and losses. Let's not focus on individual goals. But really by the end, by that last home game that we had against Dexter on senior night, at that point, I wanted it, I think, as much as anyone. And really it was because I saw how much the entire team wanted it really for me, and how much everyone sort of got behind it and came together as a team. And so, I know Bacon always has this great description of the goal, and, off the one pad and out to the left and all this. I don't really even remember any of that. All I really remember was just the sheer excitement of the entire team being behind me, and how, we all just kind of just mobbed each other in the corner afterward. And so that's really, to me, was what was kind of the interesting part about that goal. And then it was certainly an emotional time. Bacon likes to tell the story about, how afterward, when we were all in tears, and I had clarified for him that I wasn't crying because I'd scored, was crying because it was over. Bacon tells that story, pretty much every time I see him, pretty much, many times when I see him speak. And, one of the times I heard that story for about the 10th time, one of my teammates, who's going to remain nameless, pulls me aside and he said, "You're so full of shit. You were crying because you were scoring." And so, that was just sort of another fond memory from that time.
Yeah, well, you guys had a special bond. I mean,
we really did.
It's really obvious, and I believe this. Like, everybody adds value, right? Like, on your team, everybody adds value. I mean, we preach that. I know you guys subscribe to that theory, whether you're on the first line or the fourth line, whether you're the trainer, whether you're filling water bottles. I mean, everybody is bringing something to the table, and I think that's critically important, and that's why you guys were so successful, and that's why you have that bond today, because those are some of the things that bring a team close together. That team was, your teammates were probably more happy that you got the goal than when you scored it. So,
oh, absolutely. And I think what you were saying about valuing everyone on the team and caring about everyone on the team, I think that is a lot of why we were so successful. Coach would push me just as much in the weight room or on the track or at practice as he would push Mike or Chris. There was, certainly those two, you guys were going to get more playing time. You guys were going to score more goals. You guys were going to, frankly, have a better impact or a bigger impact on the ice than I was ever going to have. However, Coach never let up on me, never let up on any of the fourth line guys. He expected us to, be pushing ourselves just as hard, to contribute as much as we could, just as much as anyone else. And you felt that. You could tell that he cared about you beyond just being a hockey player, and that he was going to, be there for you just as much as he was for anyone else on the team. So
absolutely.
That's part of why we came together so much as a group.
There's no doubt about it. That's one of the important things about being a coach. I see the coach as the maestro, right? So you see the band warming up in the pit before the orchestra warming up in the pit, and all you hear is noise, right? Everybody's tuning their instruments up. Then the maestro comes in. Everybody's playing the same tune in the same key, and the music's beautiful. And the maestro puts that together. But still, the guys in the orchestra, they have to add value, otherwise it doesn't work. And I can see that in you guys. I can tell by the bios. I can tell by your reaction to Coach and his reaction to you guys. And I want to segue over to Chris Fragner here. He looks like the guy that really had a really illustrious hockey career here. He had a Mr. Hockey runner-up. He's a Dream Team candidate, or he was on the Dream Team, Team All-State, Governor's Award, Metro League MVP. I'm sure that he was pretty helpful to have on the team. Can you talk, Coach? Can you tell us a little bit about Chris, and then we'll get his spin on his story.
Well, sure. And being a teammate of your guy, Chad Langlis, at U of M, our first player in 20 years from Brad McCauley. But the great part about Chris is my first year, he played. It was a sophomore. He played in his AAA team. Came back to us his junior year because, as you know, players recruit players. The coach can say whatever he wants, but your buddy's going to tell you if there's a good place to play or not. And his friends were giving him a good report. He came back. He thought it might be easy. He found out pretty early on it wasn't easy, doing it our way. And we pushed him as much as we pushed Scott McConnell and everyone else. No playing no favorites. And that was the deal that Chris signed up for. but ended up being a great captain as well as a great player, of course. And what I'll never forget, at the end of our third year, we're number 4 in the state in Division I. We got a real shot at a state title. We beat Canton, number 9. We got Salem, number 7. And we outshoot them 2-1, basically, like 35-15, something like that. But we lose in overtime. And Coach, this happens in hockey. The Soviets lost to the Americans, and we weren't the Soviets either. But in hockey, anything can happen. So it's heartbreaking. Everyone was crying afterwards, silent for 15, 20 minutes. And finally, I realized they were waiting for Chris to start getting undressed. Before he did the tape, no one moved a muscle. So on his way to the shower, he turns around and says, I just want to thank all you freshmen for doing such a great job filling water bottles and hitting the pucks. And that made me – I got choked up a few times this year on the speaking trail talking about that. That's a team. That's a team you want to be on. We're one of the best players in the state. I always thought the best player in the state. The first people he thought about at our lowest moment were the freshmen. That, to me, was a real touch of class.
Yeah, absolutely. It says a lot.
Yeah,
it says a lot about his character, obviously, and he went on to play at Michigan and the Ross School of Business, and he's just done some remarkable things in his hockey and his professional career. So Chris, would you like to comment on your experiences at Ann Arbor Huron?
Yeah. No, I was so fortunate, when I had 2 great parents that brought me along, and my dad was, he loved hockey. It was his passion. It was, he was all hockey all the time. He coached me all the way up, and I was really fortunate that he didn't hold the steering wheel too tight. He kind of gave me a lot of freedom and choices. My mom was a teacher, and so when it came time, kind of that sophomore, junior year, it felt as though I had to make a choice of if I wanted to go, pursue college hockey and pursue hockey full time, or if I wanted to, do other things as well as hockey. So focus on school and be able to play lacrosse and do other things in high school. And so, to be honest, when I decided to play high school hockey, I felt as though I was kind of giving up on my hockey dreams or on any hockey after high school. And so, coming in and seeing the team that Bacon ran, he told me from the get-go, you'll be one of the better players, but you're going to be treated the same, if not worse, than the others, because they have to know that I'm going to make it just as hard, if not harder on you, and hold you to higher standards than, say, making it easy on you. And so I had a lot of respect for that, and that was something I wanted to be a part of. And so I had great friends that were on those teams, and just like the other guys are saying, was something that Bacon was really, really phenomenal at. And from all the teams I played on, the most buy-in from everybody, and I mean everybody, like the assistant coaches. He had a group of, call it 8 assistant coaches, and I couldn't have been more fortunate to be around these guys. I mean, one of them just built a house for me. I started a business with another one. I'm going to go visit another for their 50th birthday out in Montana here in a few months. I still stay in touch with a lot of them, and it's because Bacon recognized that he couldn't do it on his own, and he could set the kind of the structure up, but he needed a lot of help in order to make it happen. So he brought in a Marine to help us teach us how to train. He brought in, a Canadian to teach us how to talk in the locker room and how to talk crap to each other. He brought in Dale Rominski to help teach us some team psychology. I mean, he really truly understood that there was a lot more that maybe even what he knew or what any one person could know that other people could help teach these young guys. And these were all busy professionals, Ned Glisson, up and down. We had a huge group of adults that helped teach us all, and I feel really lucky to be able to try and take a few things from each of them, because they were all really remarkable to be able to donate their times. And I think about being somebody in their late 30s now that has a family and a career, and time is really precious, and to be able to do that without having a kid on the team is really special. And so I was very fortunate to be there, and I respected Bacon as well for, he had all this ambition and all this drive and all this energy, and he didn't chase dollars. He didn't chase things that are maybe pretty common these days. He didn't chase something that was in it for himself. He donated his time to a team. He wrote about sports, and he wrote books which didn't have like a maybe an immediate impact on his bottom line, but yet he cared about it and he was passionate about it, and he did it kind of in his own way. And so, to this day, I still have a lot of respect for those that pursue things in their own way and with passion and with a lot of integrity. So I was really lucky. And you know what, come senior year, and even reflecting on these games and stuff, I don't remember a whole lot of the games very well. I don't remember a whole lot of the details very well, but I certainly remember all the lessons that he taught, and I certainly remember the friendships and stuff like that. And I remember that, Bacon telling me that, hey, you should, I was trying to figure out what to do after high school, and he said you should make hockey work for you. Hockey's been special to you, and you're decent at it. So why not go make hockey do something for you that it can't for others? And he encouraged me to go to Culver Military Academy, and I was going to try to either go to West Point or Air Force and play hockey and lacrosse. And I got my appointment to West Point, and kind of Culver helped me figure out that I didn't want to go to West Point. But basically along the way, it helped me figure out that I wanted to, keep playing hockey and see what I could do for it. So it was, and then when I was trying to walk on to Michigan, he was in Red's ear in the office and telling him that he should take me and that I had more to offer than what was just on the ice, which I don't think would have been enough. So thank goodness he took me and allowed me to be a part of something that, I never dreamed of being a part of, growing up watching season tickets and stuff. So, certainly would have wished I could have contributed more, but in some ways I feel really, really lucky. I think about it a lot. I got a lot of recognition or awards playing high school hockey, but I would always kind of think, I'm not even the 51st best hockey player at Huron because we had all the USA guys there. So but it still feels weird, Mr. Hockey runner-up or Dream Team or any of those things when, even a bunch of kids in my classes were so much better than I ever dreamed of being in. But yet it gave me a lot of confidence. It gave me the ability to keep pursuing it, and then eventually to play with some of those guys, at Michigan and stuff. So, and that today still benefits me a lot. I manage money for people with a great partner that is one of Michigan's all-time greats, Dave Roberts, and so to be a part of just a team with him is mind-blowing, and to be able to now work managing some money for professional hockey players and other people that are in our network, it continues to benefit me, the things that I learned from Bacon and from high school hockey. And so, I couldn't be more fortunate to have accidentally made the decision I did to play high school hockey. And I'm so grateful I did, because had I not, I probably would have maybe not worked as hard on my grades. I would have focused a lot more on hockey, and I probably would have not had as well of a rounded experience as I have. My senior year at Michigan, I was on the top ranked hockey team for the majority of the year. Our hockey team was the first ranked team for most of that, and I was in the top ranked business school in the country. And so I can't imagine having a better, more rounded experience to be a student athlete. So I'm very indebted to all that I've gotten from high school and hockey and from Bacon.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, you mentioned you were the 51st best player in Ann Arbor. You can look at this a different way. Maybe this will make you feel a little better. You could say you were the second best hockey player in Ann Arbor, and there were 50 guys tied for first. There's a different way of looking at it, right? I mean, don't say you're 51.
That's right. He's a tight number 2. That's not bad.
Yeah, tight number 2. Just pulling your chain a little bit. No, you had a great career there, and went to the Ross Business School at Michigan. Not too shabby. Actually, my uncle was the AD there at Michigan for a while, and we got a lot of family members went to school there, and we have a Michigan. My son went to Michigan State, which is a bad word for all you guys, you Ann Arbor people.
not at all.
But anyway, we got a little rivalry there. But yeah, no, I know that. I guess if I was to sum it up in one word, I think for high school hockey, it's not for everybody. I'm not trying to say it's for everybody, but I'd say the lifestyle is really hard to beat. Like if you're a high school hockey player, for most people on the planet here in Michigan, the lifestyle of a high school hockey player is pretty hard to beat. It's an extension of the classroom. Coaches care about you. They care about your grades. They care about your behavior in school. It's bigger than just hockey. And I think, all you guys, basically have said that today. And we want to wrap this thing up here in a few minutes, but I want to segue back to Mike here just for a minute. You got a good coach story for us?
Yes.
Like I said, I've been thinking about this for 20 years, and it's a family-friendly show, so I've been trying to consolidate it. But I do have one. So, like I said, when Bacon came in, and he's changing the culture, so he's grinding on us. He's all over us to buy in, and which is great. Right now, I look back at it 20 years later. I'm looking after other hockey coaches, and perfect way to do it. But as a kid, right, you're like, yeah. Lay off, dude. Like, get out of here. But so after we bought in, after the summer, we're in practice one time, and I happened to be our two goalies were both seniors and happened to be really good friends of mine. And we're in the middle of practice, and all of a sudden practice is going, and both goalies are gone. They're just not on the ice. Who knows where they are? And John throws a fit, like, how am I supposed to run practice? The goalies aren't here. And he goes right back to our old culture. Like, these guys are off goofing off somewhere. So he goes storming in the locker room, and both guys are in there bleeding. One's out of his ears, one out of his nose. And, like, they're actually hurt, not on the ice. He comes storming back, and, again, they're good friends. I'm laughing. And that was almost a time where John starts buying into us, too, right? Like, we weren't goofing off all the time. They were in there bleeding. And for practice, we didn't have any goalies. Our two senior goalies are in there bleeding. And
temporary insanity, right?
Yeah, he's like, so his mind goes back, and I'm like, wait a minute, we're all good here. They're just getting a Band-Aid.
The blood was very persuasive.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it is, for sure.
But good times, and everything was good. And
yeah, no, that's good stuff, right? I can see that happening, right? Where's my goaltender? How am I going to run practice? I can see where, you could lose your mind there temporarily until you figure it out. Well, they're in there getting patched up. So
they quit because Scotty McConnell was scoring goals on them in practice, so they both got off the ice.
Yeah, hurt both goalies. Scotty, you got a story for us?
So I think for me, like, a lot of the stories are just kind of in the locker room, riding the buses to away games where we would take things seriously, but not really all that seriously. And so I can remember, we had our routine where about 20 minutes away from the arena, if we were going to an away game on the bus, coach would get up there and he would kind of start talking to us about the game. And he would have us envision, okay, what are we going to do on offense? What are we going to do on the defensive side of things? We'd go through everything. He would have us stretch out on the bus, actually, kind of, seated where you are. He'd kind of pump us up. And then for some reason, he would then recite the lyrics to the intro to Shaft. And I have no idea why, how that became a thing. But eventually by about mid-season, our sort of closing cadence on the bus ride was a call and response with the opening of Shaft. So I don't know why that didn't make that in the book for leadership lessons. But that, I think that was just indicative of just kind of, for as hard as he pushed us, as much as we were focused on results and trying to give us life lessons, we had a lot of fun while we did it. So.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I've been coaching for 41 years, and I don't think I've ever heard any coach recite the stuff from Shaft. So that's a new one. I'm gonna have to look that one up.
Frags, they say this cat Shaft is one bad mother.
Shut your mouth.
There you go.
Thank you.
I don't think I've said that in 20 years.
Luckily, that was before my time.
Yeah.
Or after my time.
But after your time, Mike. Yeah.
Chris, you got anything for us?
Yeah. I guess I don't have a specific story, but I've got some generalizations that like after reflection, I found really interesting and also maybe special. So it'll sound like an insult, but it's also what makes it special.
Mike's already happy.
The best stories start that way.
I can see him laughing. This is
so, especially coming in like as a young kid and hearing that the culture's changed and that this John Bacon is really pushing hard and instilling a lot of discipline in these young kids. I was really excited to figure out who that was, and I was like, who is this hard ass? What's this guy all about? But then as I grow older, you kind of realize there's kind of two Bacons, right? Like there's the Bacon that says early's on time, and then there's the Bacon in the rest of his life that you learn he's got 8 points on his license or whatever it was, and he's got all these speeding tickets. He instilled in us. He treated our locker room like it was a professional locker room. I mean, he made the locker room gorgeous, and he had help along that. But he made us respect the locker room, and so the socks had to be put in a certain spot and the tape in a certain spot. Well, then you go over to Bacon's place, and it looked like some sort of frat library mixture. I mean, junk was everywhere, and so you learn that there was two different Bacons, and so. That's also, to be honest, what was so special about it, and what if there's any high school hockey coaches or any coaches that are listening to it, is what's so special about it is because no matter who you are, the Ted Lasso comparison, anybody can do these things. It's a matter of learning it and then committing to doing it, and obviously that's the hard part. It sounds simple, but if you're able to commit yourself and commit the time, Bacon was not a world-class athlete. But he trained with all of us, and he ran he doesn't talk about it, but he ran the steps, he ran the track, and I was like, man, I've never seen any coach anywhere run, maybe a trainer or somebody else, but not a head coach do everything. And I mean, he looked like he was going to puke right next to us, and so he was willing to he was willing to show up, he was willing to be on time, he was willing to the dress code. And so any coach, anybody can do those things. You don't have to be an NHL all-star or anybody that maybe has lived any sort of life in the past. You can choose to commit to something going forward. And so I think that's really what was special about it, and a huge learning lesson for me. I mean, I often think of, do I want to commit to doing something? No, I don't, because of this or that. Well, you can do anything you want to as long as you commit to it and you're willing to follow through on it. So.
Yeah, I was one of those guys as well. I was a crazy detail guy. You guys will laugh at this, but for the 26 years that I was at Cranbrook, even before that, we packed the bus the exact same way every single time. Like everything had a spot. Like you said, socks in the locker room, but it was discipline. Because the bottom block in the building process was discipline, right? Like you had to have discipline. How you gonna learn anything if you're not disciplined? So anyway, it's good stuff. It's great to hear this, and I can see why your program's successful because I read all the information on it, and pay attention to details, be process orientated. Nobody's bigger than the team. Accountability, all the life lessons. I mean, success is just a byproduct of all those things. And, coach is the maestro. I mean, he's going to make each one of you guys add value, and you're going to make good music. The music's going to be beautiful. And that's just the way it works. And I think there's going to be coaches out there listening to these podcasts. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to help them make their programs better. And some of the stuff that you guys mentioned today and some of the stuff that Coach mentioned today, some of these guys will hear this stuff and say, the light will go on and say, hey, it's not rocket science. We just have to do the little things, pay attention to details, and, the big things will take care of themselves. But, Coach, you want to add a couple comments here before we sign off?
Can I jump in quick before he goes?
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
I got 3 quick things real quick. One, everyone talks about leading by example, and they usually put it on a captain or a player to lead by example. But as someone who now overlooks coaches and was under coaches, it's really the coach leads by example, then the captain follows along, than the rest of the team. So I just wanted to throw that out there. 2, Coach Weidenbach, you got 3 Culver guys on this phone call that were always coming after you. And John, Chris, and I.
Yeah.
Three, I just want to let you in on something we always do here when we have we lost, to me, a friend, a co-player, and to Chris and Scott, an assistant coach we lost during this time. And whenever we're together, we cheers to Mike Lappridge. So I don't have a drink in my hand, but cheers to Mike Lappridge. And he was so much part of this story, and he's not there. But cheers to Mike Lappridge. Then I'll let John take it from here.
Yeah, cheers. Thank you.
Beautifully said, Mike, as usual, Captain. Look, as clear as I can be, Mike was the key as the captain, but without Lapper, we don't get anywhere. And we all knew that. The book is dedicated to him. No surprise there, and we all know that one. So, but I'm glad you shared that, Mike. And back to your analogy, Coach Weidenbach, and I'll embarrass you a little bit. You are the standard, like I said. You guys in Trenton, grades and all the rest. And so when you called me up for a game, our fourth year, that's when I felt like we really arrived. We got on your radar, your team that you wanted to play. That's what we wanted. So that to us was, I remember that very clearly. Remember the game itself as a scrimmage, and I still remember it. That's how important it was to us. That we got respect from a guy like you and Mike Turner. Those are my two highlights right there. But your analogy of a conductor or maestro is exactly right. But don't forget, coaches, the baton, when you're up there at the podium going like this, the baton makes no sound. So all the music is coming from these guys, and don't forget it. If Herb Brooks can walk off the ice after the greatest upset of all time and take no credit, then that's our job also. I didn't score a goal as a player, and I didn't score a goal as a coach. So all the goals were these guys, and without embarrassing too much, despite their efforts, I love them. How's that, Mike?
Woo. Good luck to all you guys in all your future endeavors. And again, thank you for your time. And hopefully some of the people that will listen to this podcast, coaches and players, will be able to get some valuable information and help their teams be successful. Thanks a lot, guys.